Hey everyone, Ray here with Rinksworks. We got this '06 Chevy Colorado here. Today's project is we're gonna change the antifreeze and flush out the system. So if you're interested in seeing how I do that, stay tuned and I'll show you. Let me grab some tools, we'll get started. I just did an oil change on it, and I was looking at the coolant, and the coolant looks kind of crappy. So we're going to do a coolant change and kind of flush the system out. Of course, there's no drain for the coolant in this car. Get underneath and take a peek. So, as you can see, there is no way to drain that coolant, which means we're going to pull the radiator hose off. No big deal. It'll just be a little bit messier is all. So the first thing we're going to do, let's pull this cover off. It's a plastic cover. It's got 4 bolts. And I decided to show you just a little bit. These are 13 millimeter bolts, all 4 of them. So I'm going to yank all 4 off and then take this cover off, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. Or what, but there's the cover off. Okay, and now we can see exposure to the radiator. So what we're going to do is pull this clamp, pull this lower radiator hose off and drain it from there. So I'm going to get set up and then we'll do that. Alright, so I got a tub sitting down, sitting down here under the truck. There's really not much way to do this without making a big mess. So we're going to take this clamp, move it over, pull this hose off, get it to drain into this bucket. That's the plan anyway. So let's see if we can do it. Some pair of channel locks. I'm going to move the bucket for a second. I don't know if you can see this. I hope you can. But I'm just squeezing the clamp and moving it back up on the hose as far as I can. And we'll try to pull this hose off. Oh, of course, it's going to be difficult. Move this clamp a little bit more. There it goes. So you see the hose, hopefully you see the hose moving. And there it goes. So we're going to let that drain for a while, and I'm going to move my phone out of the way so it doesn't get splashed on. Alright, hopefully you can still see what's happening. So we're going to just let this drain for a while. I'm going to go up and pull the radiator cap off. That'll help it drain a bit. Alright. I'm sure you can see or hear that. That's with the radiator cap off, so it allows that thing to drain. So we'll let that go for a bit and then we'll be back. Alright, I got the radiator cap off. And this thing is still slowly draining. So I'm going to go to bed for tonight because it's kind of late, so we're just going to let this thing drain. It's been about 10 minutes so far since I last was filming this, so I'm just going to let it go for overnight. Alright, it's next morning. That's all drained out. What we're going to do now is the overflow tank or expansion tank. It's got a little bit of debris in the bottom of it, and I really want to get it cleaned out. You can see some of it did siphon out when we drained it, but because it's got debris in it, I think I'm going to go ahead and just take it off, clean it out, empty it. To do that, there's a bolt here, and there's another one way down in here that you can't get to, it appears. So what I'm going to do is just take off the air cleaner assembly. There's 3 bolts. Appears to be pretty easy to remove, and we'll just take a clamp off here and just move this whole box out of the way so we get to that tank. If your tank's clean, you really don't need to do this. Alright, so let's get this out. These are 13 millimeter bolts, 3 of them. So we'll pull these real quick, probably time lapse you. Okay, we'll pull this off. It just pushes down. And it's a good time to clean all these up, all your connections up, and then we'll just pull this off or loosen it. This is a a 8 millimeter. And then we can slide this right off of here. And pull this whole plenum thing out. Okay. This engine bay is nice and clean, and this people took care of this truck. Alright, so now we got that whole plenum thing out of here. So this one is just a stud with a nut on it. You don't have to take that nut all the way off. You just loosen it and then it slides in like that. So I just pulled it straight out. And you've got to kind of work it around this stuff here, but as you saw, it came out pretty easy. Might be harder to get it back in, we'll see. Anyway, as far as the tank goes, we've got to pull this off, and this tank will come out. And this is just overflow drain here, not connected to anything. And then this one is the one that loops back and connects to the radiator. So let's pull those 2 bolts out. Alright, these are 10 millimeter. Oh, something else is holding it. Yeah, there's another bolt down here. Bigger. It looks like it's the same size. Yeah, it's the same size that we were using for the other stuff. And I gotta be careful not to drop this bolt, which I may do. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this hose off from right here. Well, maybe not. Let's see. Let's just get it out where we can get. Here's that bolt that I was working on. So I just kept it in here and lifted it up carefully so we wouldn't drop it. Okay. Now we can drain the tank and clean it all up. Want to show you real quick where I took this off. If you look down in here, you can see that debris that's down there in the bottom. So that's why I went through the trouble of taking this off to clean it out. I just worked that cap off, and then so now I'll take it out and wash it, and then we'll wipe down all this area in here just to clean it up, because this engine is so clean. It's a 2006. Look how nice all this cleaned up. Just a little bit of Windex on a rag, and you know, just wipe off your hoses and all that, and clean the paint and just get the grime off. It comes out nice. Let's put it back together. Of course. Alright, now everything's clean. Now, I did notice, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not. There's a bunch of junk in there. So this is a perfect time to pop your cover open. I'm actually doing a tune-up on this anyway. So I'm changing this air filter. But what a good time if you're doing your flush. This is also probably a good time to just, since you know how easy it is to pull this whole thing out of the car, probably a good time to just clean out the whole box. You can see all the junk in it, hopefully. So I'm going to clean out the inside too and put it back together. But even if you're just doing a tune-up and you're doing an air filter, and this thing's so easy to take off, just take it off, clean it all out. Alright, so I blew this out, got all the debris out of it. It's still a bit dirty, as you can see. If you want to, you can wash this out. But if you do, take the sensor off, just these two bolts. This is your mass airflow sensor. You don't want to get that wet. Once that's off, all of this can be washed. And I'm getting ready to put this back together now, and then we're going to fill this up with distilled water, bring it up to temp, drive it around. That's how we're going to flush it. And then I'm actually going to take this back off. I'm going to do all this again, take everything back off, drain it, put it back together. So I might go ahead and wash this second time around, but I want to get it back together now. I'll have to run some errands anyway. So let's put it back together. All right. This will probably take a little bit of finagling to get back in here. Let's find out. So this is a metal retainer that sits in here. And that retainer goes around that stud on the bottom, and I kicked it up in the air when I was trying to put it in. Alright, that's actually pretty easy. So let's get all the bolts started first, before we tighten that one in the center of that stud, because that one's going to be a little more difficult, or this will be more difficult to put in if we try to do them after we tighten the middle one. So don't over clamp it, or don't over tighten this stuff. It's all plastic. Get it snug. And that's pretty much all you need to do. Okay. Got our connector back on. Okay. I am going to go ahead and reuse this old air filter, except I'm going to take it outside and blow it out first. And then when I do this for the last time, I'm going to put a new air filter in it. So let me go blow this out real quick. Okay, let's go under the car and put the hose back on. Okay, I'm going to attempt to do this one-handed. Here's our hose and the radiator. I already wiped this off, and wiped this surface off here. And just try to get your hose back onto where it was before, which I can see that the clamp is holding it up. All right, I'm gonna have to put the camera down. So what I gotta do is squeeze this clamp, get it back up over this part a little bit, get the hose on the rest of the way, squeeze the clamp and pull it back on. And then those 4 bolts there are from this cover that was here we took off. I'm gonna leave that off for now because I'm gonna go get it up to temp, drive it around, and then drain it again. So I'll be back. Okay, there's our hose back on. So let's fill this thing up with some distilled water. Okay, I'm gonna fill this up with distilled water. We'll get as much in it as we can, and then I'm gonna drive it outside, or push it outside, whatever. Get it running, and then keep filling it and burping it. But for now, we'll just get some distilled water in it. And be very, very careful not to get distilled water on your hands, because the distilling process turns into sulfuric acid. This guy's full of shit. Oh no. This has a gear shift thingy. heck am I supposed to do with this? Guessing the R must mean reverse. Oh, I knew I could do it. Amazing. Okay. We're gonna let this run now and burp itself. Pull the radiator cap back off. I probably shouldn't have put on, but I overfilled it a little bit. Okay. So you can see the level's gone down a little bit. And it'll take a little time to get this worked out. It's still bubbling occasionally. Put on for 4 or 5 minutes now. We got no leaks on the bottom. Okay, we're gonna let this warm up a bit more, and then we'll take it for a drive, get it up to operating temperature, and then we'll drain it and do it all over again. Okay, I'm still burping it. I forgot one very important thing. No air conditioning, all the way on heat. So you want to get that water flowing through the heater core. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer because it's like 90 degrees out right now, but it's got to be. So let's roll down the window. What the heck is this thing? It's not going down. Oh, shit, look at that. Wow, these fancy new cars. Alright, I just topped it off. Didn't take much. Heater's on. And now we'll go really take it for a drive, warm it up. I'm going to go see my brother Rich, who is not feeling so well. I haven't seen him in a bit, so I'll go to his house. That's how we'll warm this thing up, and then when I come back, we will go through the process of draining it again, which I won't make you watch, but I'll explain what we're doing. So I'll be back. All right, let's go drain it again. As you can see, there's nothing leaking under the truck, so everything worked out good. So I'm going to do the same thing we already did once. I won't show you again. I may just show you what's coming out of the radiator just to see how dirty it is. But I'm going to do the same thing. And then this time when I take this out, I'm going to clean it out really good with soap and water. Again, I'm going to take this off first. So let's get to draining. All right, there it is draining. You can see it's pretty clean. It literally took me less than 5 minutes to pull everything back off. Pull this tank back off. I dumped it in. I mean, the water's not even finished draining out of the block and radiator yet. And I already have all that other stuff off. So it doesn't take long to do this. So now I will take that air cleaner back out of there. We'll take the mass airflow sensor off so we don't damage it. Those 2 bolts. And I'll also clean up this pan that goes underneath and get that all cleaned up and ready to go back in. So while that's finishing draining, let's clean this thing up. All right, let's get this mass airflow sensor off of here. This is a 5.5 millimeter socket I'm using. Okay. With that out, we can now scrub this clean. Look how clean these are now. Okay, gonna put it back together and then bring you back. You've already watched it, so you don't need to watch it again. Alright. Almost all back together. Put the sensor back in. Everything's dry now. I already filled the reservoir. Alright, so I just filled this up with antifreeze and it's running and I'm letting it burp out. I put a little bit too much in there, but it'll be alright. So this says it takes about 8 quarts when it's completely empty. So we know there's 4 gallons to a quart. So I got 16 gallons of antifreeze to put in here. No, of course that's not true. So about 2 gallons. This uses Dexcool. It's not like the old days where you just go and buy antifreeze. It's all made for certain vehicles, and this is what this one takes. But I think we're about done here. I'm going to go ahead and put the cap on it now, take it for a drive, and then come back and check the levels again. But I hope you got something out of this. I hope it helped somebody, and I appreciate you watching. So until the next one, see you later.